The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Hot topics, food, fun, entertainment, and serious business. Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.
Glad you joined us once again to Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. My guest today has some information that applies to every single person here in Southern Nevada. If you drive at all, this is the man with the plan to keep your car on the road. Terry Buis of Sun Valley Automotive.
What's up?
Yeah. I kind of had to bite my tongue the other day when I was at your shop because I felt comfortable sharing that I've been coming to your shop for more than a decade. And then when I gave the actual number of years, everybody goes, oh my God. It's like, I said, but yeah, that says a lot that here in this community, you have such a loyal following over just many, many years. There's families who've grown up coming to your shop.
Yeah, families, and their kids are now driving, and the new ones are getting ready too. 28 years.
Wow.
Yep, 28 years.
Yeah. So you're right over here where the new CarMax is going, and that's where it used to be, on Rancho and... the actual address of Sun Valley.
For now, 4553 North Rancho Drive, next to the Draft House. That's been, they opened in 1988 when I did.
Right.
So that's kind of a good landmark. And we were at Lone Mountain Road in Rancho for 21 years. And like you said, the new CarMax is moving in. So, but it's nice to have the bigger building. And
how did you get started in the car repair business?
Used to do a lot of stuff on my own, but truck had a problem one day, and big old burly biker mechanic said, it's either fuel or electrical. And I said, what do we do? And he said, well, it's $25 an hour. We'll go 4 hours this way, or we'll go 4 hours that way.
Right.
And at that time, that was money that I didn't have.
Right.
I said, I got to learn how to do this. So I promptly jumped into it, and here we are, 37 years later.
Now, but there's a whole other side to you that a lot of people don't know about, and you are a crazy rock and roller who traveled around the world. Tell us just a little bit about you personally.
Well, I've been playing music, started in the late 60s, and just like all of us, rocking and rolling, doing a thing. And a lot of bands, a lot of playing, and finally I was able to record 2 CDs, and just all my music, got 26 Library of Congress copyrights. And
wow.
So I was able to put something together for a mood and groove type of thing, and then the rock and roll edge. So took that around when I traveled, and so it's still being played in Europe and Central and South America, and so that's kind of cool just to finish out that.
And you did a lot of fundraising for worthy causes.
Yeah, Help a Child Smile projects was something we did for a while, and that was kind of cool. It was just that music can make a difference. It wasn't really tied with any other thing other than just stop, donate something, help somebody out. It didn't have to be a lot. Just sometimes just a little treat, make a kid smile in a rough area for a day.
I saw some of the pictures. They're really spectacular. Yeah. Well, the reason why we're having you on today is because it's a cause that's near and dear to my heart. Terry actually offers a special class. Right now it's just for women, but it's probably going to be expanded at some point because it's pretty popular, where you just break down the basic information about what all goes into a car. I've taken the class 3 times now, and the first time I thought I knew a lot about cars because I grew up with hoopties, so I kind of know where you put the oil in and where the transmission fluid's supposed to go. But the actual mechanics of the vehicle itself are actually kind of complicated, and a lot of people don't know about it.
And it changes a lot too. So if you were raised up around changing oil with your dad or watching things, that was so long ago that it's just evolved. There's a lot of transmission dipsticks aren't on most cars anymore. The gas cap's not even there anymore. You just close the door and then that's the gas cap. So things are changing that we don't even know, let alone spark plugs and spark plug wires. These things are almost a thing of the past too. Coil packs now, things have just changed so much. So unless you're really on top of it or just evolved with it, it's almost going to be hard to do even some of the simple services. Just taking off windshield wiper blades anymore is changing a light bulb
right.
With these LED lights and control modules. So sometimes it's just better to take a look, see if you can do it yourself, but then get help because again it's just changed so much daily.
Now, car care tips for women, how did that come about?
AC Delco brought that to me, and they do it in every other state, but the state of Nevada has not done it. So we were the first shop to be brought that opportunity to do it. And it's just such a great thing. We do it for the guys, but we know everything anyway, and by 10 o'clock we'd be drinking beer and telling stories. So it was just really cool to do, to dispel myths, rumors, consumer awareness, so you don't get ripped off. I mean, it's still a rough business out there, and so it was just I modified it to it was very technical drawings and things. So I didn't want to make it a light duty class for mechanics. I wanted to make it more, understandable, quickly digestible. It's about a 3-hour class, so it's really, you get a lot of information.
Now you start almost like a classroom setting where
Right.
you've got the diagrams up on the board, and people can look at them and figure out, like, this is where the brakes are.
Yeah.
And this,
We start off kind of small to where you just some good photos to get your head around what we're looking at, where the tire comes off, what's underneath that. I kind of equated to some older cars that we work on. We're known for doing a lot of classics, so we take the old cars from the turn of the century and just show that all we've done is we just added a lot of creature comforts to it. We still have the transmission, we still have the tires, the engine, and these things, and all we've done is just add air conditioning and leather. And so once we realize that these basic principles have just been carried on and morphed to better technology, then it's like, okay, it's not such a mysterious world. And then once we take a break and we go out in the shop, now we're actually under cars, looking at things, seeing oil leaks, and all of the things that you're going to run into with brakes, and we'll have you actually do your own brake inspection, so you'll understand that. So if you're at another shop and you don't feel right about it, hey, show me. And so that can be intimidating to people that are trying to get one over on you.
Well, that's what attracted me to the class in the first place, because I'm sure a lot of women run into this. It's sort of that when you hear them say, hey, lady, it's probably, another word that they really mean, because they figure that the lady really doesn't know. And I think like the kiss of death for me is when I hear those words. Let me show you something. Show me what? That I brought it into you because I don't know what's going on. And then they'll get underneath the car and start pointing stuff, and it's like, that's not helping me. I have no idea. And that's one of the things I really love about this class, is now at least if somebody's showing me something, I kind of know what I'm looking at. Before I had no idea.
And sometimes just knowing that you're willing to go out and take a look and then listen to the way the person's explaining it. It's not everybody's a crook out there, but there's a lot of training and whatnot that goes into being a good operator and a bad operator. So you really have to, trust your judgment, look at what they're saying, maybe step back a little bit if the car's not broke down, and just, ask around too. Sometimes who do you take your car to?
Right.
It's become a very competitive dog-eat-dog kind of business, and I hate to say it, but I don't know if plumbers and electricians and medical industry. I think everybody has these type of issues, and I think the class really will. After 3 hours, you'll walk out. You won't be able to fix your car, but you're going to have a better understanding. And we've had success stories where Linda had been told $1,500 worth of brakes and brought it to the shop, and she did her own brake inspection after we jacked it up, took the tires off, and she said, I got 50% left. And she did. She had a year and a half to go on the brakes. So,
wow.
it's just any awareness is good. Knowledge is power. Right. Just even on the safety things, tire pressure, just what to take in your car when we come into summer. You're out at the Valley of Fire and you have a flat tire and you can't get it off and you didn't bring any water. And
I like this third class, just this past weekend. You started out with the medical supplies and your repair kit, and I think a lot of people don't really think about, like, if you break down, you need water.
Right.
You need, I have water and umbrella just in case I've got to stand on the side of the road. It's
a lot of people have turned their AC on because they got a problem, and then it overheats the car, and now they've just amplified it. They don't know what to do, and so just a simple day outing can turn bad. Heck, just go hiking in Red Rock, one of the most active search and rescue spots in the country, and you twist your ankle and nobody's around. So just know that it's an extreme environment we're living in. Mm-hmm. So it comes this summer, it's going to be hot. Bring some water.
Well, tell me some of the horror stories you've heard recently of people going to other shops and then they come to you and go, so-and-so is going to charge me something. I've got my own horror story too.
It's just swimming in my head. There's so much. It's just sad. It's sad that people are being misled. A lot of times transmission problems, engine noises, just CV joints, for example, the half shaft it's called. One side's bad, you need both sides. It's not always true. They might be the same age and one's going to go, but it's just a lot. Brakes seem to be a big gold mine for some. Not so much, yeah.
Right?
Belts, hoses, things like that. There's maintenance services that you should do, and you should follow what's called the K services and see where it's at. Well, that's just K meaning 1,000 miles. So at 5,000, 10, 12, there's all these little inspections you do. Most of it's done with the oil change. At 30,000 miles, 60,000 miles, 80, and sometimes 100,000 miles. Those are your big key points in on timing belts and checking your brakes and checking all your hoses and certain transmission flushes and things like that should be done. So watch for those bigger ones. But in between that, it's just change the oil and do a vehicle inspection. Some of these shops on synthetic oil are getting, for a Lexus, it could be $150 to $170 doing oil change and rotate the tires, and most of it's just a vehicle inspection, where we charge $65 for the same thing. Mercedes Class B service could be several hundreds of dollars, and if the mileage is just in between these type of bigger services, it's just a synthetic oil change and vehicle inspection. So, and then watch for what's said. It's really hard. You can always call us and just say, hey, what's this need at this kind of mileage, and we'll let you know. It's over the phone estimates. We'll call you back. You know, I don't know. I just like to see that we're taking it serious about the way people are being treated in this industry, and not only women. Guys sometimes can be duked into things quicker than the women. You guys are smart. You guys ask questions. Guys are just kind of okay. How much is that going to be?
Well, I was saying that I think women are less likely to just fork over the cash.
Right.
We're just like, I don't want to pay for this.
Where a guy feels a lot of times that he should know, and he'll be intimidated by the long-haired, greasy tattoo guy telling him, so he'll start agreeing. And they found in studies that their men are more easily led. That's why we send the ladies to the shop and then yell at you when we see the bill. You should have known. Yeah.
Now, in this town, what is the biggest problem that you see coming into your shop, coming into Sun Valley?
Air conditioning, overheating. We made a joke a million years ago that half the shop was built with AC and the other half overheating. Because that's the biggest. We're in a severe climate, so you're going to see that a lot. There's a lot of other problems, but that's really the one. When the AC's not working, it's just a drag, and it's not always that easy because you have a lot of different components in there and a lot of different hoses and connections, and so there could be 15, 20 different places that this system's sealed up, and today it's this, tomorrow it's that, and it is frustrating because sometimes. So when we do it, we hook up the machine, let it run and do its thing. We put a dye in it, so if it does leak later, it's an invisible gas. So with the dye, we can ultraviolet light pick that up later. Do everything we can, but the overheating can be pretty bad. Once something starts getting hot, it's not going to go away on its own. So if your vehicle gets hot, pull over, cool it down, and get to the shop because that event's going to happen again.
Yeah, pretty soon.
And you can blow a head gasket, blow an engine. Everything's great today, and then tomorrow it's not. Transmissions and the other things with the engine, that's pretty much just follow your service maintenance. A lot of these maintenance schedules could be pretty expensive.
Right.
So you don't have to do it right away. Just know that a transmission flush could be $200 or $400 or $500. Just plan for it and catch it. Because the transmission could be $8,000.
My favorite story about myself was came in, Mike, your service manager, amazing, just an amazing guy. And I came in for an oil change, and he's like, well, Rikki, it's leaking. Your water pump is leaking, and I can get you in. And something else was going wrong. And this is like 2 cars ago. And we can get you in and out for $1,500. This is actually one of the things that led me to the class. So we will tell you about this story when we come back. We're going to show one of the car care tips for women that Crazy Terry did for us earlier, and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking, no real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative. And I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other. Hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there. Figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Oh yeah, you know, when batteries, I'm going to get to my favorite story in a minute, but batteries. I remember buying, because it was so, promoted and hyped, when Sears was doing their Die Hard and they lived forever, and found that everywhere but Las Vegas. And you were saying during the class that a lot of the problems that we're running into is just because we're in such an extreme climate that I don't care what you say, your battery's going to go out at some point.
The technology, in my mind, seems to have slipped. I worked for Firestone in late 70s, and we were warranting out JCPenney's lifetime battery, and they went out of business because of that battery. And we had to get the date codes off the batteries and get the customer a battery in, and it avoids your lifetime warranty. Some of those batteries are 12 and 14 years old and still running strong. So today I find that 2 years, 4 years tops. If you can get 3 to 4 years out of a battery, you're doing really good. I was selling batteries up to $200, $250, gel batteries, these and even they would start going out after a couple years. So we went to AC Delco's mid-range battery. They're doing away with the lifetime warranties, as you said. We're doing away with, some of them don't even go 5 years anymore. Right. And this heat really kills them. If you can buy in a low-grade battery, you expect a year out of it. Motorcycle batteries don't even come with a warranty. 1 year, they're gone.
That's it, right?
Yeah, so it is frustrating. And sometimes I question the electric cars now, these T-Packs, these T-Packs for the batteries about $4,000 and up, and they say that after 60,000, 80,000 miles, you're probably going to be needing to change them. And how many people are going to bank that money for that change?
Wow.
So it is kind of interesting. I don't know if the industry's I don't know. I don't know if they're making them obsolete for the years, but 2 to 3 years out here, they're going.
That's it.
And yeah, if you get 4, you're really doing well.
Okay, now my story. I love to out myself, and poor John Stiles, our station owner, heard the story a gazillion times. It was one of those things. I came in, the leak was happening. Mike says, Ricky, we can get you in and out of here for $1,500, and you'll be done in 2 hours. $1,500 for a water pump. The last time I paid for a water pump, and he was just very calm. I'm sure I'm not the first person who melted down. And I said, no, I'll think about it. So now I have a $15,000 Toyota RAV because 2 weeks after this, it blew and the whole engine went. And that's, I think, one of the things that I also learned was labor. A lot of people don't realize now the way the cars are put together, because I'm thinking old school where you could look under the hood and you could see everything. Yeah. And then I think it was the first or second class, it might have been the second class, where you took us out and you showed this car dash, the inside had to be totally dismantled just to get to whatever that little part was, and that's when the light bulb went off. Labor is a big deal.
It's huge. Just like you said, some dash work. If it's a heater core or evaporator inside the dash for your air conditioning, to get to these things, it's just insane. You've got airbags, steering columns to pull down. The whole dash has got to come out. You got a lot of plastic parts. So in the heat, after a few years, things start crumbling and cracking. And if we can, we call people up and tell them to come look, or we can take a picture and try to send it to them, because they wouldn't even reckon it. It looks like a car blown up somewhere in the Middle East, and it's all got to go back together. I had one guy look at it, and he was in just shock. He said, "Can you get that back together?" And I said, "Well, I'm sure we're going to have a coffee can full of some bolts that we'll figure out sooner or later, rattle a little bit." But no, it's just tough. But even you're saying on water pumps now, you've got they're in positions that you can't get to. Sometimes we'll have to pull the motor up and out. You've got timing belts and a lot of the components attached to these components. So sometimes it's not just a matter of that; it's the things that are around it.
Right.
We get into cars, and we're now into an area that we can see things that you couldn't before, and it's like, these are old too. You got 80,000 or 100,000 miles. While we're there, I know it's more money, but let's just do it, because if it goes bad 2 days later, we got to go back into that same thing, and the labor will just kill you. A lot of fuel injectors are not too hard to get on a 4-cylinder, but the V6s and V8s could be 6 to 8 hours labor to gain access to them.
Wow.
And if you're replacing one, what if tomorrow another one goes bad?
Right.
And they do. So we tell people, look, I know these things are a couple $400 a piece, but we're here now. And you've got 160,000 or something on the car. Why don't we do them all?
Right.
Well, it's time and money is what the customer has to deal with, and and so we're sensitive to that. But at the same token, we got to let them know that fails 2 weeks from now, we got to go back in. And sometimes doing that a couple times, well, I've heard a lot, Terry. If I'd have just listened to you, I would have saved so much money. But again, time and money. The bus system really isn't that good around here, and
you can only Uber and Lyft so many times.
Right. And who wants to spend money that you don't know you need? So kind of follow the direction of the shop you're going to, but make sure you have some really tight trust with that shop. Warranties too, nationwide warranty on everything we do. We offer a road hazard service for towing and flat tire and gas service, and change a tire, lock your vehicle out. So we offer a lot of things that the smaller companies couldn't a long time ago, and so that's part of it. But having a warranty, making sure you're clear what the job is, and anytime you have a problem, always hey, I got something going on, let's take a look at it.
Something else I had to learn the hard way, because the first time it ever happened to me, was if your car is sitting too long, all kinds of things can go bad, even if you're not driving it.
Yes.
Actually, it's worse if you're not driving it.
Yeah, if you got a vehicle, a second, third vehicle back before the crash, we all had an extra car. Right. It was just kind of cool to have. But no, letting them sit, the gas will turn rancid after 4 to 6 months. It'll start turning, and that causes all sorts of problems. Oil can start just coagulating up. But just keep it moving. Just take it around the block. Sometimes we don't think about it, especially during winter. Just turn the AC on it, cycle the oil in the AC. It's cold. That's the last thing we're thinking about, but that oil will keep the seals from drying out, and then turn the heater on so the heater core inside the dash doesn't get corroded and just spring a leak. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Your tires will get flat spots after a period of time, especially if you have an old classic and you're storing it. We have 3 or 4 at the shop right now. A buddy of mine put in a gas tank because he let it sit so long, and he had to do the carburetor and a great deal of other things to it. A 69 Mustang Mach 1, but so it's not that complicated. And so he told me after 2 years he's let it sit. We're doing the exact same thing, and he only put a few miles on it. So these things can, motorhomes, a lot of things just go bad from sitting, and cost a lot of money.
Tell me the difference between synthetic oil and regular oil. What is the big deal with that?
A fossil fuel oil is just that. It's fossil fuel oils with some detergents and things added to it. And so back in the day when Arnold Palmer was doing Pennzoil, and so a lot of people had their favorite oil. It's almost like your favorite football team or soccer team. You just have the Pennzoil, or I'm Valvoline, or I'm that. It's manufactured by these companies, and every oil meets the SAE requirements. So there's no oil that's not meet or exceeds the OEM, original equipment manufacturer specification. We would never make an oil that didn't wasn't allowed to be put in a car because we'd be sued. So that being said, the Pennzoil got bad mouth because it looked like it had water in it. Well, fossil fuel oils break down and turn into water. It'll start producing H2O, and it'll make it milkshake. So the years later, they started coming up with a better blend of oil. Just like anything, they've made it better. They've started coming up with synthetics, and they started using a synthetic blend. So they're using fossil fuel oils with a blend of synthetic to keep the cost down. You got Mobil One, Royal Purple, and a great deal of other companies that came together with a synthetic oil. That's man-made oil. So now we've got engineers, and we're sitting in our lab, and we're putting this oil together to take extreme colds, extreme heat, racing applications. A lot of the newer vehicles require all sorts of different designer oils. So you can't just have a couple oils in our shop anymore. I mean, it's just gone to just multitudes, cases upon cases, drums filled up, whatever. So always check your owner's manual. Don't put in the wrong oil, because if you have a warranty, they can void that warranty. Synthetic oils just take a lot more abuse. Oil doesn't go bad, it just gets dirty. But with a good synthetic oil, you can go 5,000 to 8,000 miles between oil changes. A lot of people don't drive that much, so I encourage them to come in for a free inspection, because it could be a long time before, and if you want to catch that tire that's getting low or any oil leaks that are creeping up. So synthetic is a way to go. It can be $12 a quart to $20 a quart, depending on the vehicle. But you do get your life out of it, and in this heat, I recommend it.
Right.
But
speaking of heat, we're going to take another look at a different car care tip, and this one is especially important this time of year: tire pressure.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tip's about tire maintenance, how to check a tire, how to fill it properly. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a low tire. We probably saw that a month ago and said we'll fill it, but like everything, we let a day go by. Next thing you know, we got a problem. Properly check a tire, remove the valve cover. Got a tire gauge, simply put it on there, and it'll read the pressure down at the bottom in PSI, pounds per square inch. We can see here that this is so low, it's barely reading. There's probably 10 pounds in it at best. So how do we properly inflate it? Well, we're going to need an air chuck. Go down to the local store or come by the shop. We'll use this tool to inflate it. And that sounds like that's all we need to do. But we need to know how much to inflate it to, because overinflated is just as bad as underinflated. We can look at the tire, and on here we're going to find a cold pressure rating rated in PSI. And it's going to say anywhere from 32 to 80 pounds depending on the vehicle. We'll want to find that so we know the maximum inflation cold. We're going to look until we find the load rating. And here we find the maximum PSI is 44 PSI, pounds per square inch cold. We don't want to fill it any more than that, but we don't want to underfill it either. We want to fill it to 44. So it seems like checking the air pressure is no big deal. It's not. It's really simple to do, but we want to make sure we got the correct pressure. How do we find that? Let me show you. We open the door and we locate the sticker. It's usually right here. It could be down on the lower rocker, but it's on the driver's side. And after we look around, we'll see right here it says 35 PSI. That's the pressure that the tire requires that was sold with the vehicle. But if you change the tires later to a high-performance tire, mud and snow, or anything else, look at the cold pressure on the side of the tire to make sure you're properly inflated. This could be 35 today, but we get a performance tire, it's 44, 45, or even higher. We'll want to make sure we're inflating the tire properly. A couple of things you're going to need if you're checking your own tires: tire gauge and a rag, because you are going to get a little dirty. If you don't want to do that, I don't blame you. Bring it to the shop, we'll check it for you. We'll do a whole inspection on the vehicle if you like. We'll check the tires, make sure you're safe. This can save you a lot of time and keep you safe. Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Thanks a lot.
And you have to be really brave in this environment to let your car go bad for any reason. We were just talking about how hard it is in certain parts of town to get a cab, to get back and forth anywhere. I mean, I was kind of skeptical about Uber and Lyft until one time I had my car at your shop, and it was just hot, and I didn't feel like walking, even though it's well within walking distance. 45 minutes. And then when I called, said, what is the deal? They're like, well, it's going to be another hour. I thought I could have walked back and forth to Sun Valley for that amount of time.
It's sad. I lived in Europe, and the bus will take you almost to your house. But here, 2 2 blocks down the road, it's 6 transfers and 20 days later. So, yeah, we need our car, and we're really in tune with that with our customers. We try to just jump on everything right away. It's our high season, get ready to start. We'll sometimes have 50 to 75 plus cars a day.
Wow.
And so we'll run till midnight and longer if we have to, just to keep things turned around. Because, yeah, getting a ride. I mean, the Uber and the Lyft is kind of cool, as long as that technology sticks around. And, the things will change it, but it's helping us out a lot. It's really hard for us to give somebody a ride home because we got to take a tech or somebody off a job to go do it.
Right.
And you would be surprised how many people say it's just right down the street. But we got to go to the Meadows Mall and pick up some stuff. Then we got to go to work, drop off some papers, and so it is sometimes very hard to do.
Yeah, sure. How can people? You touched on it earlier. How do you know if somebody's jerking your chain or not? Because another one of my stories was you guys are always backed up for oil changes. You got a great price, and so it was one of those days where I don't feel like sitting and waiting. So I drove it to one of the big chain places, and they were like, okay, well, lady, come and look at this. And the bottom line was the $25 oil change was going to be $1,600. That's what they told me, that was all broken. And I said, well, if I'm going to pay anybody $1,600, I'm giving it to Sun Valley. I mean, well, if you drive away from here, we can't guarantee your safety. And you were telling some horror stories to the class about that, where they'll really try to scare you, and it's like, your car's going to explode if you drive away.
Yeah, and it's sad. I just don't understand that mentality. I just can't get my head around it. But, there's a great deal of these companies that will train people to really pour it on, and that's quite sad. The first time I ever heard of it was with the ladies class when you were taking the first one. We were talking, and it was kind of common in the room that the keys were held back and not give you the keys back because it's too unsafe to drive. No man would ever be told that, because we just punch them out and take the key. And so when you're up against that, that's just, it's just how do you deal with that?
Right.
They're telling you something, you want to kind of believe it, but you drove in, your car's not having any problem. So that's why we encourage, and that's why we take the ladies out in the class and get under the car. Let's look, show me.
Yeah.
If there's something that bad, you're going to see things hanging, and you would have drove in with all these noises and all these things. And coupons are, we have a newsletter and we do coupons. I mean, my AC service is less than $80 for a full service that most shops are getting almost $200 for. And so I like that, because I can give these out. The synthetic oil change at $55, it's just at my cost. It doesn't hurt me to do that. The oil changes now, we're doing appointments, so it's really working out a lot better, and we do them all the way 7 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. And so it's helping out to produce it. But as far as the rip-off stuff, you just gotta, I always say the little hairs on the back of your neck, when they stand up, that's God's way of saying get out. And you'll feel it. You'll feel that something ain't right. Take a step back, get a second look, because that's a standard problem in this town. Right.
And I call it, it's not quite bait and switch, but it is sticker shock. When you get in, you're thinking you're going in for one thing, and all of a sudden, the inspection
it can ruin your day, and it's just, and it's just got you really nervous. We're always kind of worried about our car after a certain period of time. And we're starting to see 200, 300,000 miles on odometers now. So these cars have dialed in their computer system, and they're really working well. Maintenance is the key. Back in the day, the cars were more forgiving, and you could just add some oil because it's leaking. But today's cars really just keep up with the maintenance, and you don't have to ditch them. We kind of got used to the 80s and mid-90s, where once it got 80,000 miles, we got to start looking. Now cars are, at 150, 200,000, they're just starting to break in. So they can go a long way. So just take care of it. You just do because all it takes is a transmission or something for lack of maintenance, and now you've just lost a great older car.
And one of the things I love about your shop too, and I've had all these cars, is that if something can't be fixed, you guys will tell the truth. Because I had a Dodge truck that I had forever, and they're like, you know what, Rikki, don't fix it. Get rid of it. It's like, it's just not worth it.
It's not. I mean, we could stroke that where I love my old truck, and we can get you into this and that. But once you start getting that kind of money, it's like, I mean, there could be some rare case where that vehicle has some great value sentimentally or historical value, and you want to do that. But we'll let you know. Look, it's starting to get to where not only is it this, but then it's going to be that. A lot of people think you change a motor like when we did in the old days, and you pulled out your Chevy 350 and you just put some spark plugs in and you're good for 300,000 miles. There's so many other things attached to the motor nowadays. Right. Fuel injectors and coil packs and just the multitude of sensors on there. So when you get a new motor, yeah, you're good to go, but you've got a lot of old stuff hanging on that motor, and a lot of it wears like iron. You're okay, but when we go in, we'll kind of pre-assess before we give the final quote and say we should do this, this, and this, but these should be changed too, and then weigh it out.
Yeah. Sensors. We kind of touched on it in the class this past weekend, but man, the stuff that's underneath the hood of a car,
it's amazing.
I can't even recognize any of the parts. I like to call myself looking under the hood of my RAV and going, I don't know what anything is anymore.
No. And a lot of times they just cover it with the plastic. They really don't want you in there. They don't want you touching anything. It wouldn't hurt if you did, but no, the sensors have gone crazy. I think in the class I kept this old printout of a 1996 Ford Escort, and it happens to show all the sensors under the hood with the little arrows pointing to it, and there's just a ton of them. That's 1996. That's just a drop in the bucket today. It just goes on and on and on, and people get this code reader and they go, oh, I wouldn't have had my code read, and Google says it's this, and it's like, well, that's just one code on a stream of 5 or 10 or 20 other sensors, and that's the primary code. So people will just, oxygen sensor, it's that. Well, now you've wasted money. It's not just that in most cases. So you want to get a full checkout and have the computer system diagnose, run all the sensors, their values and fuel trims and all these things, which a code reader can't do. And so people think that's kind of expensive, and it is. It's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear, years and years and years to be able to work these programs and understand each system. But we try to credit that back. If we're doing the repairs, we'll give that back. There's sometimes we have to program and do other things that is a lot more complicated. It's kind of like an MRI or going to get X-rays for a dentist. Why are we doing that? It just hurts when I do this.
Right.
Well, they need to. You need these tools to understand what you're doing, and for the consumer, we don't really see that.
Right.
I almost wish people would come back, pull up a chair, but I turn all thumbs when people are watching me work. So, because then you'd get a better understanding. That's why the ladies class is good. I'd like to do it for the guys too. So now we're out there and we're seeing these things, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked it that there were moms who dragged their teenagers in this last class.
Cool. Yeah.
They're getting ready to drive, so at least understand how to change a tire.
Sure. Or getting ready to go to college and far away. Just to have the confidence to ask the hard questions and not be taken as prey, and sure, changing a tire, doing some of these things, I encourage not to unless you just have to, especially if you're on the roadways. Getting out of these vehicles nowadays and stand on the freeway or something, it's better just to get away from the vehicle, get in a safe spot, get your cell phone out and call for help, and again, any service we do, you get a 1-year road hazard for free and it automatically renews. So if it's just an oil change, you can call that 1-800 number and get a tow truck coming, and so but if you're in the boonies, you need to change your tire. But you have so many different tires, you have so many different locks, so many different places that the tire's at anymore. Heck, just changing a battery nowadays, sometimes the inner fender well has to come out, sometimes the seats on certain vehicles come out, where's an hour labor or more just to get to the battery. So it's,
and I love that people were able to see the equipment that you guys have to use, and how many of those you have to have.
Yeah, it's
your toolkit is huge.
The toolboxes are anymore 150,000 minimum just to fill it up with some tools, and every time they build a car, I'm sure the tool company's right there going, let's build this bolt like this, and we'll make a new tool for that. And it's like and so it is. A lot of people do it yourselfers at home. Well, I can do it myself a lot cheaper. Well, I can cook me up a veggie burger at home a lot cheaper than I can at most restaurants. But, so we can't kick the shop for that. We got a lot of gear. We got a lot of responsibility. We got liabilities. We can't just do what I do in my garage for 12-pack and $5.
Right.
I got license and insurance and lawsuits and things to watch for to make sure that we're professional and have to do it right. We're held to a lot higher standard when it comes to safety procedures and anything, really.
People's lives are. I mean, when you really get down to it, your life is in that vehicle.
we see a bad tire, even it just, we put a marker if it's that bad danger on it, and you wouldn't believe what you see. Cords are hanging out. People are getting on this hot highway ready to go to Henderson, and they're going to have a blowout, possibly take themselves and 5 people out with them. So it comes to our vehicle inspections. Every car gets an inspection, and one time a guy said, "Man, I got a little laundry list here, and I just want an oil change." And I said, "What? I wouldn't be doing you a service if you were heading to San Diego in this beautiful weather and at Barstow you broke down, or in Baker." And they're going to say, "You just had an oil change and the guy didn't tell you about this." So it's our duty to let you know, and then prioritize what's important. 6 months, a year from now, we'll look at this, and that way you feel a bit better about it. Yeah. But you should know.
We're going to talk about now one of the next tips. Last one for this segment is about cooling systems.
Oh yes,
so important. We'll be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tips on cooling systems. This vehicle's got about 182,000 miles on it, so if you're checking the coolant, check the hoses too. Just feel them and see if they're soft or any signs of fatigue for the mileage on it. They don't feel bad. They look like they're still the original hose, but you want to make sure you don't go too long with these hoses because they will eventually deteriorate, cause a problem. In this case, this car's got a visible leak. The customer brought it to us. We'll pop the hood and check the cooling system. First, we just relieve any pressure that might be on the cap, remove the cap, take a look inside. We see it's kind of low. Now we'll start our inspection. What we found on this one is the top tank is leaking. It's got a crack in it. Pretty common for these plastic radiators to do that. I want to get to a shop right away because severe engine damage can result from overheating condition like this. In this case, it was pretty easy to see the crack was right on the top tank, but a lot of times we'll have to pressurize the system to locate the exact leak. Could be a hose in the back, could be underneath. Some of these are hard to find, but in this case, a very common leak, the top tank. When we're testing a cooling system, it's okay to use just water, but you want to make sure when you're filling it up properly, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water. It needs the water to make the chemical work, so don't just put straight antifreeze. 50-50 mix is the best way to go. Keep it clean, keep it rust-free. So as you can see, we got a pretty active leak. We got to get this fixed, or there's going to be some engine problems. If you're going to top off your own coolant, it's really not that hard. If you got a radiator cap, just make sure it's not hot. Take the cap off and take a look. In this case, we're pretty full here, but what we have is the overflow jugs empty. So we'll just add that. Once again, check your manufacturer's specs to make sure what type of coolant you have. In this case, we're using the good old green. There's gold, there's red, there's yellow, all types out there. Just want to make sure you're staying with your manufacturer recommended coolant. And that's really all there is to it. The cooling system is a major component. You'll want to service that regularly. If you have a problem, it could be too late and cost you thousands of dollars. If ever you have a problem, come into Sun Valley Automotive. It's no charge to look at your cooling system. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Back here with Terry Buis, Crazy Terry of Sun Valley Automotive, and we're talking about this special class he has for women. It's car care tips for women, but it's also open for guys too. I mean, if that's kind of how you want to expand. The other cool thing about the class was not just being able to get up under the cars, not just looking at the diagrams, but you were passing around little pieces of like bolts and the brake pads. And
right, just to... in our world, it could be equated to a lot of things. It could be medical world or scientific world. It's something we do every day and we just take for granted. Going underneath the car is just normal for us. And a lot of people just never have seen that before.
Right.
And so tying that in with going out and seeing the car and seeing trannies and their engines, whatever we got going on, but also just the hanging out with the parts. That Range Rover that we put that hose on the table, and how much do you think that is? It's just a little rubber hose with a plastic piece on it.
It's like this big, maybe.
$400 my cost.
Right.
That's insane, but that's an evaporative emission part, and it's Range Rovers, and it's their R&D that put it all together, and it doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. Right. But holding on to the brakes and looking at them, seeing the photos, might not have it in the shop at that time, so. It really, after a few moments and everybody's settled in, I think the intro just explaining that the car has just evolved. It's not this spaceship. It's very complex. But once we get our head around it, it's just that old 28 Dodge is just morphed into this new truck, and it a lot of stuff to it, but it's again, it's just trying to get a peek into what we do, and the more you think about me doing this for 37 years, I just take things for granted. That's our world.
You see it every day.
When you guys come in and just go, wow, just like holding those little bolts and feeling the technology's changed from old school heavy bolts to now this metallurgy that can have lighter cars, better gas mileage, yeah.
And I love it. And now I know this is the common human experience. And you touched on it in class. The noises that you hear in the car, the mechanics never hear those noises. It's like as soon as you get in the car, nothing's wrong, but when you're in the car by yourself. I think poor Jason, one of your techs, he was going to start crying because I started crying. It's like, I'm telling you, I keep hearing that sound. I don't know why it's not doing it now.
We had one lady a long time ago at the old shop, and nobody could hear it. We drove with her, husband drove with her, neighbors drove with her, everybody was in that car with her all the time. Nobody heard it. We finally heard it. She almost cried. She thought she was going insane. She didn't care if we fixed it. It's just that somebody finally validated that there's that noise. I don't even think we ever fixed it, but no, it is. And we love to have you make the noise too, because it's just fun.
Yeah.
How does it go? And then everybody kind of goes, it's kind of like a ching, ching, ching. It's like, how's that go again?
And then you have to act it out too.
Yeah,
Mine was like, it's going,
it's kind of, knock it a ping, knock it a ping. Sounds like 2 weeks in Waikiki. No, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it gets you, and then thinking about too, when you do drop off a car, if there's a problem or noise, think about when it happens. Is it during the hot part of the day, the cold part of the morning, cold? A lot of times I say the owner of the car knows kind of what's going on. We have to interpret what's the symptoms and what they're saying, but sometimes we're up against the wall and we'll call back. Well, okay, when? Is it only, afternoon or these type of things, because they can be frustrating too. Cars don't give up their secrets all the time.
It's true. More details on the class. How often are you holding them? How do people log on? And these classes are free, folks.
Yeah, this is a free seminar. It goes, it's 3 hours, and it moves really fast, so it's not dragging. We get up, take a break, go out in the shop, come back. They're open Saturday. Open classes Saturday, 9 a.m. till about noon. We have you call up, sign up, and then we'll reach out to you Wednesday and then Friday just to make sure you're coming. If you're not coming, just give us a call, let us know. We provide some beverages and light pastries and then
really good coffee.
Really good coffee. Yeah, it's French press. I make that at home. As opposed to Mike Reynolds' Vietnam coffee. God, I don't even know what that is. It's just you can clean oil pans with that stuff. Then we have I offer another class to where if you build your own class, if you have 4 or more, up to 10 people, we don't want to make them too big. That if you got a class and you want to do it on Wednesday at 2:00, book in the 3-hour time, but certainly put something together and call us ahead of time and sign up for it, because we're finding that not everybody has Saturday open.
Right.
Maybe it's
a
bit too
Vegas.
early. Right. Yeah. And some people have church on Sunday, some people don't. So if there's a class 4 or more, like I said, up to 10, even 12 people, then we'll just put that on whenever. It's just fun to do. It's really rewarding on even the technicians, seeing everybody come out in the shop. It's really cool.
Yeah.
They actually have one in I read the newsletter for AC Delco. I don't know what state it was now, Wyoming or something, but they had wine and wheels. So they brought out a bottle of wine. That ought to get fun towards the end of the class.
Then you really will need Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, I had to Uber everybody out.
Right. So what do you find most rewarding about your industry and what you do personally?
Well, I mean, we're a service industry for the customers. Personally, I just feel that it's the integrity that the shop has, and just not blowing my own horn or making it sound corny, but we really think about the customer. I mean, the customer is what keeps us around, and it's a symbiotic relationship. It's family, and so it would be the same if somebody's mom came in or sister, or if you want to be treated that way,
Right.
So that's what I think about the shop. I mean, we can fix things, and a lot of people can fix things, and so what separates us, I think, is just community. I saw the Beatles here in 1964. My dad said it went downhill after that. long hair and guitars, and there you go. But no, it's just rewarding. I get shout outs. They hear my crazy commercials on the radio and things, and I'm interacting just like you throughout the town. People know you, and then you feel good. You want to be respected, and you respect other people. So I think our shop's a really top shop. Anything from 100 years ago to now, we do. And if you were in the shop today, you'd see 5 or 6 really nice classics, all the new stuff in there. So I think I'm very proud that the technical staff has got that. It's hard to find nowadays. These a lot of these shops are parts changers, and I'm not slamming other shops. I'm just saying that there's not a lot of diagnostics left in the old techs where they can get their head around a problem, and that's something that's a little tougher than the regular just maintenance, replacing brakes or these type of things. So our crew is really, really good and stay with a problem. And then our service advisors, our front counter, James, on the front counter. I mean, he's got a smile that'll brighten up the darkest day. And so I just think our shop really stands out. I know there's other shops out there that are really good too. And
the word of mouth in this community, in the auto repair community, is pretty strong too. So if you're going somewhere, or maybe somebody like the lady from Henderson, she was like, I'm going to drive all the way across the valley just to come here. But then she asked you, and you actually gave her a name of someone actually was closer to her.
Right, and that's kind of cool to do. It's not many shops, but if there's somebody we know, and because we're putting our name on that shop too, and so yeah, dropping names and helping people out, because coming from Henderson's, the traffic's rough. Yeah,
especially what's going on now with the spaghetti bowl in '95.
It's like another world.
John said it's going to go on for the next 10 months.
It's insane, and it's always been. My mom in 1964 cussed out that whole freeway system. In 1964, it was 6 cars. And it still couldn't flow.
Brakes. Let's talk really quickly about brakes. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the class, when people can actually see the wear and tear on brakes. And you said by the time you're actually hearing a sound, you're already in trouble.
Yeah, there's wear indicators on them, and not all brake pads have them, but mostly they do. And they scratch and do their little noise, and that's the signal to get you in. But when they start grinding and going bad, and then we were talking in the class that when the brakes are 110% gone is when you actually have the best brake pedal, because everything's into the metal, everything's stretched out as far as it can go. The noise kind of stops or is not as bad, and you're thinking, hey, this is pretty cool, and you'd be surprised. And that's what we do all parts, just to see what's falling off cars. It's crazy. And you should get 35, minimum 40,000 miles out of a set of brakes. And a lot of people, we had one lady taking the class, and they were the original brakes, because there's a certain keepers and tells on brakes, and she had 68,000 miles on her car with still the front brakes. But other shops will key into the 35, 40,000 miles and just suggest them because of the mileage. And everything's an individual. You got to look at them. But you can get 2 brake jobs to the front to 1 to the rear.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for people to be told, look, here's your front brakes, they're really worn out, and they can show you, and we're going to do the rears while we're at it. Makes sense. Well, most cases, the rears will go twice as long. Most all cars, especially the mid-size down, the front braking effort is 70% on the front, so the rears aren't as
that makes
you want to do a full vehicle inspection, but it's real easy to add another $300, $400, $500 on the rear, and are they even going to do it? I just always think that when people are going and doing shenanigans, you just wonder if they're really going to finish up the job that they're charging you for.
Or if they're even doing the work that they claim. That's always been my potential nightmare. It's like, do I really need to have this done? And did you really do it? I mean, because even if you ask for your parts back,
it could be somebody else's parts.
Right.
An old guy was from 1950, was a mechanic, and he was telling me how they used to do things and do just that. Bring out an old carburetor and say, this is your carburetor. And
how would you know?
He told him one day, his boss told him, tighten the lug nuts on that car, because they left them loose a couple days ago and then sold wheel bearings and didn't do them, and he just tightened the lug nuts up. And I looked at the old guy and I said, they're still doing that today. So it is. I mean, I hate to run my industry down, but I got to tell you, it's as the economy gets bad, as big businesses need, overhead. You look at some of these big shops, they got a lot of overhead. If they're paying medical and benefits and vacations, and boy, that's a big machine to keep running when the times are slow. So best we can do is treat everybody with respect and show you what you got.
Yeah.
Because it's and brakes are an easy thing.
Right.
Yeah, brakes are, everybody's had a brake story. Belts and hoses, certain
Yes.
things, but brakes always seem to be the easy grab. Yeah.
Right, definitely. One more time. This is Crazy Terry Buis from Sun Valley Automotive. He has it's free, guys. You just have to reserve the space.
Yep.
Car care tips for women thinking about expanding to guys. But this is great for teenagers too. Just kind of come in and learn early. Don't do what I did, was just like blow like 4 engines and learn. You can learn a cheaper way.
We appreciate that, though.
I know,
we
I
named
know.
a bay after you for that.
Maybe there's like the Rikki Cheese Memorial plaque.
Right.
This is where one of her cars died.
Yes, we got a new
the last
lift.
one.
We got a new lift on that.
Well, we thank you all for joining us here on
Thanks, guys.
Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese. Terry Buis, Sun Valley Automotive. Go on his website. You'll see pictures from the class and get a good idea of what you can actually take part in. 3 hours of your life that you will absolutely get great value from. This
And we're
class
open
is
7 a.m. to midnight,
fantastic.
7 days a week.
Ooh, that's a good part too, because I actually got towed in one time at 11:30. We'll see you back here next week.